Hello, I'm Luke Darcy and welcome to the 2012 wash-up for the Fremantle Dockers. Damien Barrett is with me, and Damo, you'd have to say that the Dockers gained a fair bit more respect in season 2012, both on and off the field.
Yeah, there's a good summation, Darcy. They've always sought respect, this footy club, but they've rarely received it, certainly not in an extended period ever. Now with Ross Lyon there, they've got it and they won't be losing it while he's there.
Let's start with the season highlight, and I want to throw Matty Pavlich's final performance in the elimination final. Bag of 6 goals, kicked the first 2 of the game, ended up with 6, and he was just sensational. A little bit off the radar as not being part of a big Melbourne club, but he will be regarded as one of the great players of the modern era. No question about that. It was sensational to see him do it in a big final.
Yeah, and also too, just leading up to that game, Darcy, just the way he got his own game to be sort of, I suppose, factored under and to work within Ross Lyon's requirements. It took him a while, didn't it, like a few of these teammates, but the true worth of the man says that he did it and came through in the end.
All-Australian full-back, All-Australian midfielder, who's been an All-Australian forward, kicked 51 goals after round 10, having been required to play in the midfield just to get them going for the year. He can do it all, and that goal in the dying stages of the first final was sensational. They highlight for you, Damo?
It's just Ross Lyon in general, Das, but specifically just how he got this team playing defensively minded as a starting point, got them into that finals type of football, which is required, and got them a finals win, and just Ross Lyon full stop.
Just about coaching better than anyone in the competition at the moment. He's an absolute gun and he's on fire. Everything he puts into place just works beautifully. A low light for me was a young man by the name of Anthony Morabito. He was a number 4 pick, played 23 games in his debut year. He is an elite talent, has now had 2 knee reconstructions and will miss a fair chunk.
You rate this kid, don't you? Still,
he's a star.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot of Adam Goods. He's got that unbelievable power about him. Let's hope that he can get himself back, because he would just about change that whole setup and on his own form be able to carry them further up the ladder.
Yep. The highlight for me was the innuendo that was thrown Fremantle's way, largely by Richmond, when this man in screen, the big man, Aaron Sandlands, was a late inclusion for the round 21 game. As we know, he wasn't selected in the 22, came into the 22 when Griffin went down, and as we know, Ross Lyon was not happy with those insinuations and defended himself vigorously, and rightly so. But innuendo, I reckon they could have done without Das, because I think anyone who knows Ross Lyon, he's not going to muck around with stuff like that.
No, and he fired back pretty succinctly, didn't he, Ross Lyon? Let's hand out some Christmas bonuses for the Dockers. And I want to start with someone who is a bit unheralded, but Clancy Pearce, I reckon, is a Ross Lyon beauty. The sort of player that he gets hold of and turns them into brilliant role players. He's tough, he's hard, he's got low centre of gravity. Did really well in the midfield, moved more into the middle part of the ground, and just a classic Ross Lyon player, hard and tough, and as I said, played superbly well, and I think he deserves a nice little bonus.
Yeah, I'm going to, on a similar sort of train of thought, Das, with my Christmas bonus, I'm going to choose Ryan Crowley, who, like Clancy Pearce, at the start of the year was asked to lose some weight, significant weight around the backside region, and just generally speaking, he looked gone at some stages last year, Ryan Crowley, but look, he's been a good player, and this year showed again just how valuable he can be. He can play a run with role if need be, and he's also creative in his own way in that regard, just on the back of that goal there being a highlight for him during the year. But no, good player, glad to see him back, and has now got a significant future for with that club. Apologies
to Michael Walters as well, who was gone, and Ross Lyon sorted him out in his final series. I thought was just sensational. Chopping block time, Damo, where we need to put a black line through someone. And I'm going to start with Jack Anthony, who is a good reminder that the grass isn't always greener. Yep. Collingwood wanted him to stay. He decided that his home was over in the West, hasn't fired a shot, and I'm not sure that there is a future for him at the Dockers.
Yeah, it looks a bit bleak now, doesn't it? Zach Clark's the man I'm going to put into this bracket. Got a call up for the final, but didn't perform, and prior to that was out of the team because Kepler Bradley was effectively keeping him out of the team. And some years ago, I thought, and I think a few others did too, this could be world's the oyster sort of stuff for this guy, but it just hasn't quite worked out that way. It's not too late, but just needs to do something better than what he did in 2012.
Bit sick of your potting ruckman, Damo. He's got a big future, Zach Clark, and athletic player, will take time, and couldn't disagree with you more on that one. Hey, where do they need to improve in 2013, Damo? I want to start with the key forward they've been searching for. They went all out to get Mitch Clark. He went to, of course, Melbourne had a pretty good year. Travis Cloak has been mooted. That's not going to happen, we understand, but they need some support for Pav. and develop their own. There's talk that they're going to trade heavily with the GWS Giants for a young 17-year-old Western Australian called Jesse Hogan.
Yep.
Perhaps that's the future. Go and draft one of their own and turn him into a gun.
Yeah, big raps on him. I'd go and do that, and then I'd also just go all out for Goddard. I mean, as you say, the talk internally now at the Dockers is that the Cloak offer is probably going to be rejected, and as such, there's money which is probably always there when required to go for Brendan Goddard, who is still in, working out whether he stays at St Kilda or goes, and Ross Lyon's connection there is huge in this front. Go for it, the Dockers. Go with whatever you can and get him.
Let's look forward to 2013. Where do you see Fremantle?
I see them up, Das. I think that win in an elimination final just proved that they can play, and with another pre-season under Ross Lyon's tutelage, sky's the limit sort of stuff for the Dockers.
Yep, I'm with you. Fremantle on the up in 2013. I think, as you said, Ross Lyon is just a star, and another summer, another year of teaching, injury-free. They are going to be a contender in the next couple of years. Thank you, Damo. That has been the wash-up for the Fremantle Dockers in season 2012. Time for the 2012 wash-up for the West Coast Eagles, and Damien Barrett is with me. The Eagles, have they proved that they're not too far away from winning a fourth premiership? Yeah,
I reckon they're not too far away, despite this year being actually, as the latter finishes when the season's completed, worse than last year. They made a prelim last year, didn't do that this year, but I just think it all goes back to Lacroix going down early, Das. Once that happened, to me, they were always going to struggle to do what they were capable of because he's a superstar.
Yeah, and of course, Josh Kennedy missed a big part of the year, so some upside around the West Coast Eagles. Season highlight for me, and I'd like to just roll the whole tape on Nick Nananui. Yeah. Just love going to games of football and watching West Coast play because for a young player in the game, I can't remember a young player having that big an impact on a football club and that big an impact on results. And only needs about 12 possessions. Normally all of them look like this. This is the best point of the year, by the way. Took them all. In fact, this is the goal. A couple other times he ran just about the full length of the ground and dominated parts of play. He's just a star, and love the highlights. This is the one that I thought was coming. Have a look at it. Who has even dreamt of trying to do that? No one I know plays the game that way. I wish they had it gone through. It would have been one of the great goals.
Does he do enough in the big games, though? Just to ask a question.
Probably away from home is the issue for him. Over in the West, he seems to, like a lot of them do, I think that's the next stage of his development, being able to play big at the MCG in the big games, but hard to knock Nananui.
My highlight is his rucking partner, Dean Coxstar, specifically for what he did in round 15 down there in Hobart against North Melbourne. North was 6 goals up late in the third quarter of this game, and that man there who took that mark just did something quite extraordinary for the remainder of that match. Kicked goals like this, did some amazing work in the centre and around the ground as well. And if ever one man has won a football match single-handedly, it was this man, Dean Cox, on this occasion. That was a narrow loss to North on the back of him doing things like that regularly for the final 40 minutes. And this was North's last foray forward, and look who stopped it for them.
Just a superstar, Dean Cox, and proved it again this year. Season low-light time, Damo. I want to refer to Chris Scott, who had this to say about the Western Australian fans.
One thing I will say is I'd hate to take my kids to the footy here. Standing on the boundary line, it is not an environment for young kids, which is a shame because we need young kids coming to the footy.
So lots of swearing in that, obviously.
Yeah, it was disgraceful.
Is that just here in Perth, or
yep.
have you noticed that?
Yep, it's everywhere, but here's the worst.
Well, there's Chris Scott talking about the Western Australian fans. He lived in Perth. He was assistant coach.
You just want to have another crack at the West Coast and
just
Freo fans.
Want to say that you want to have a situation where families can go to the football dome. I love Western Australia. I've got a lot of great friends over there.
That's what you do, Das.
You just need to sort out, Craig. They're diminishing quickly, but you've got to sort that out.
Yeah. My season low light was just the injuries they had, Das. We touched on it off the top with Lacroix going down, but Nikoski just didn't get a look in either. Kennedy came back, was nowhere near right. And Embley just missed a massive chunk of footy. Get those four guys back and playing basically every single week. I can see a grand final in this team.
Let's hand out some Christmas bonuses now for the Eagles in season 2012. And a man who I think had a sensational season, Eric McKenzie, regularly played on the gun forwards, and the double bonus for that was it allowed Darren Glass to take the lesser lights at stages. Rarely gets beaten, including the last final, kept Travis Cloke goalless, and just what a great find that is for West Coast to now have another gun defender you can rely on. got a great athletic build, can play on the bigs, is quick enough to compete with the ones that lead really hard. So bonus for Mackenzie. Have you got one?
Yeah, I have. It's in the same part of the ground too, the defensive part. It's going to be Will Schofield for the whole season, but also specifically for what he did in this game here. Round 4 against Hawthorn. See a narrow win there to the Eagles. But this match, Das, was played only days after his father died, and died suddenly. Traumatic week, traumatic period for him. Decided to play and chose to play for his father's memory, and did so in a way that obviously is greatly admired and respected by his teammates here, and did it really, really tough, but just one of the really powerful moments of season 2012.
And a ripping player too, Will Schofield, former 800-metre junior champion, and I think he's just a sensational find and great effort, as you said. Chopping block time, Damo, and got to put someone's head on the chopping block, and I think Mitch Brown, it might be time for him to look at trying his luck somewhere else. Couldn't crack it for a regular game. We spoke about Eric McKenzie before, who's gone past him, and perhaps his best opportunity is to try and look for a trade somewhere else.
Yeah, he probably will get picked up, won't he? I think
he's got the currency and athletic ability to do it. Sometimes your papers are stamped and it's time to move on.
Yep. I'm going for a couple of young guys too, Das, 22 and under. Tom Swift, Kobe Stevens and Brad Shepherd. I think they'll be talked about in trade week. Do you think any of the three will appeal to us?
Look, I'm surprised with Kobe Stevens that he hasn't played more regularly. He was a high draft pick, elite junior player, and I thought in their system he would have really absolutely shined. So whether or not he can get it back on track, and the other two in a pretty competitive side. What do they need, Damo, in 2013 to take it to the next level?
Mark Lacroix, and just get those other guys we mentioned just to get some more footy into them. But Mark Lacroix alone, Das, is enough to make this team a very big one in 2013.
You've got some great hard nuts around the footy. Kerr, Pritis, Shuey and Scott Selwood come to mind, but I'd love just that little bit of outside flair. Not dissimilar to the way Lewis Jetta has played at Sydney. That's taken them to a whole new level. They'd love to find someone who can run and carry. Gaff does it a little bit, but maybe a bit of support for an outside player. Where are they going to finish in 2013?
They'll go back to a preliminary final at the very least, Das, and I think on the back of that they will have got there on the back of a home final in that first week as a qualifying final and set themselves up to go to a grand final.
I don't think they'll get beaten at home at all unless something drastic happens in 2013. Exciting list, great talent. As you said, get Lacroix and their forward line back up and running, and they are a massive threat next year. Damo, that has been the wash-up for the West Coast Eagles in season 2012.